if you've ever lived with other gals in college, it doesn't take very long for you all to sync up on the same cycle, right? Yeah, because your hormones are impressionable. So you can help create this pattern for your body to go off of.
Have you ever had those weeks where you really feel like you're crushing it? You're just doing a great job at life. Your workouts feel great and you're running your business well. In work, you're doing so fabulously. Life feels really easy and fun. And even eating, you're following your routine that you really had hoped for and you're taking good care of yourself. And then 2 weeks later, you're like a different human, like being driven by these urges and nothing feels as comfortable. You just can't work out the same. Business feels difficult. You're eating things that you shouldn't, and you start beating yourself up. I mean, this has been the story of my life. So today I'm sharing with you this incredible conversation with Dr. Beth Westie. She is author of the best-selling book, The Female Fat Solution. But what she really talks about is how your hormones are actually influencing your entire day, your stress level, your ability to manage stress, your food choices, and how she actually guides women to work with their cycles instead of against them. It's such fascinating conversation. She shares with us some insight in how you can eat differently to support the different bodies that you experience throughout the month. I mean, can you believe it? She actually talks about us as having 4 different bodies throughout the month. But what's great about this conversation is she shares some insight in terms of how you can actually run your business differently and imagine your productivity differently based on your hormone cycling. I even asked her about what about women in perimenopause? How does that impact them? This is a must listen to episode. I'm excited for you to meet Dr. Beth Westie. She's brilliant. She even shared with us some of her story of how she came upon this great work and why this matters so much to her. So join me in welcoming Dr. Beth Westie. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy. And guys, today is going to be such a great day because we are talking about hormones, productivity, and stress. And we are sharing today's incredible episode with the most wonderful person that I cannot wait to introduce you to. Her name is Dr. Beth Westie. And I met her when she was giving this incredible lecture on exactly this topic and just changed my whole perspective on my own body and what it does and what it can do during the month and how I can leverage that power for my own greater success and happiness. So we just have to share this with you today, and I cannot wait to introduce you to her. She is Dr. Beth Westie. She is the author of this best-selling book, The Female Fat Solution. So yes, she does that too. And she's the creator of some incredible groups and programs that I can't wait to tell you more about. But let's not waste any more time. Please welcome Dr. Beth Westie.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you here. I cannot wait because I feel like you have this secret knowledge that so many of us in healthcare, I mean, I'm talking about us doctors and dentists who studied this stuff. We just didn't know. We didn't learn. No one told us.
Yeah. 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 We learn all this information and it's so like being a student, right? Anybody that has a doctorate, or like, it's almost like you're a professional student because you've been in school for so long.
Yeah.
So it's like you read these things and learn these things and you're like, okay, yes, that clicks, that makes sense, everything else. But nowhere along the way do we ever stop to think like, okay, where are they getting this information from? And is the sample size they're using, even? Or did they just use males for this study? Or what?
And the answer is most of the time, they're just using men in their studies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this why we've been so clueless about this all along? So it's not our fault. We haven't not been paying attention in school or not been reading the right articles. It's just we've been reading them and they've been skewed.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Yeah. And anytime they talk about women's health, everybody thinks about bikini health, Oh, this is just the areas of your body that a bikini covers, right? That's women's health. No, women's health is a whole body too. Like there's a whole body attached to those body parts. you know, and those hormones, you know, that are estrogens, progesterones, they go everywhere in the body. They pass through the blood-brain barrier. They impact all these other tissues, yet we don't talk about it, you know, or acknowledge that, hey, your body shifts and changes throughout the month. You live in 4 different bodies throughout the month. So of course it's going to feel different, you know, week 1 versus week 3 in the body you're living in.
Oh my gosh. Okay, back up.
I get so excited. Sorry.
It's so great. I love it. I love your energy. All right, you're telling me we live in 4 different bodies throughout the month. Tell me, expand. Tell me more about what you mean.
Yeah. So, of the female hormonal cycle, you know, day 1 would be the first day of the period, you know, when that starts and everything else. And then when that ends, you know, after the first week, the second week, estrogen, you know, into the first week and second week, estrogen really starts to rise. So that's what I call your estrogen phase. Yes, there's, you know, luteal and follicular and all these things, but a lot of people are familiar with those terms. So I just call it the estrogen phase because it's before you ovulate and it's when estrogen is most dominant in that hormonal cycle.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. And then after you ovulate, it switches. Estrogen drops and progesterone rises. And it peaks right at the end of that 3rd week and 4th and into the beginning of the 4th week. And then it starts to drop, and it drops really drastically all the way until you start your period. So for a lot of gals, you like, if you were to look at a chart and see, oh my gosh, yes, my hormones are here, here, and here, right? You can see that, holy cow, yeah, week, you know, or day, let's say day 7 of my cycle, I feel great. I've got lots of energy because estrogen gives you energy. Your digestive system is working better. Your skin is clearer, all these things, right? You do a workout and you feel amazing because you feel so strong and you recover really well. Then all of a sudden, you know, 2 weeks later, day 21, you didn't change anything. You're eating the same, you're hydrating, you're sleeping the same, you're exercising the same, yet all of a sudden that workout was super hard and you just feel more tired. And your recovery wasn't as good and you've been breaking out and you're like, what is happening? Like, what am I doing wrong? You're not doing anything wrong. It's like you just took a different body for a workout that day because the hormones are really different. So everything is going to be different. But the thing that makes us, that can be the hardest for us is that we treat our body like it's the same every single week throughout the month, and it's not.
You know, when you first introduced this idea of the correlation between the hormones and productivity and how you're feeling and how much you can actually put, how much effort you can put into your workouts and how the food impacts your body differently throughout the month, when you first shared that with us, I just felt enormous compassion for myself. I felt enormous forgiveness because, and I think that's the most powerful part of what you share is I think we beat ourselves up so much because of exactly what you were just saying. You know, you get on that treadmill or you go for that run and you think, what is wrong with me? I could do this last week. And now I'm so incapable of running the same distance, the same speed. My body won't put out the way it did before. And we start blaming ourselves. What did I do wrong?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Exactly. You think there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
But that whole mentality of you have to be at this production level all the time is a very male model mentality. Males wake up the same way every day. They have the same hormone levels every day of the month, every day of the year. Same body. Females don't. We don't have the same body all the time. It's just different. It's just really different. And so with that mindset or expectation of ourselves, it's like we're setting ourselves up to fail every single month at a certain point.
Yeah. And we keep disappointing ourselves and keep beating ourselves up that I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not working hard enough.
Yeah.
So how does this correlate to stress levels? Because I know that that's a big one for us. You know, I could deal with this last week. What's wrong with me now this week? I can't deal with this. Or we can take on more stressors things that are pushing our limits just a little bit. But then there's a week where just one little thing will push you over the edge. So
Yeah.
how does this correlate to stress levels?
Yes, that is a great, great, great question. So, this can be a little different for different people. So, I'll go through some scenarios and kind of talk about, because how our bodies react to stress is not the same all the time throughout the month. So, the stressor can be a certain level, all that other stuff. And stress in and of itself is hard to measure, right? How do you measure your cup of stress versus my cup of stress? And what it's doing, is yours heavier than mine, right?
Right.
It's so hard to tell. But your body, when it reacts and responds to certain stressors, if you are in the estrogen phase, you have that natural energy, things are like recovering faster, all that other stuff. Your body can, I don't want to say battle the stress, but manage it much differently. And then if there's a lot of stress around the time of a hormone change, around the time the period starts or ovulation, like physically your body's trying to process through a lot of things already. And then you add a layer of stress on top of that. Oh, it can make it really, really harsh on your system. And even having higher amounts of stress can throw off your cycle too. Like your body will either skip ovulation or delay it because of stress, right? Our bodies are so amazing in that they already know what they want to do. They're not going to do anything, that's not healthy or not helpful of any, in any sort.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you're not going to ovulate if your body's under so much stress because your
Yeah.
body's protecting you.
Yeah.
Protecting you from adding a baby to the mix. you're already so stressed out. Let's not also have a baby.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So, and then during the progesterone phase, this is where it can be a lot harder just in general to react to stress.
So hold on. The progesterone phase now is phase 3.
Yep. Weeks 3 and 4 of your cycle.
Gotcha.
And it can be different because progesterone is highly connected with stress. Like having a lot of stress, your progesterone levels can be lower than what they normally would be, as well as just allowing your body to recover. Brain function is different during this time too. So mentally, it can feel harder to focus or get as many things done throughout the day when you're stressed and you're in that phase. Yeah. So
if I was going to set up my business for the most success, knowing that I'm having these 4 different bodies throughout the
mhm.
month, and if I know I'm having a big launch or a big new system that I'm integrating into my practice, when is the best time for me? When am I at my best to kind of push myself beyond my comfort zone?
Yeah. Yes. So for sure during weeks 1 and 2. There was actually it wasn't a huge study, but there was a study done that talked about starting a habit, women who started new habits, and when they were most likely to retain that habit they started, it was when their body was higher in estrogen during weeks 1 and 2 when they started that new habit.
Wow, because then
Mhm.
you have your hormones working for you. And
Yep.
then by the time you get to that progesterone phase, you've already integrated a little bit of habit into your daily practice.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And not to say that you can't start a healthy habit any day of the month that you want. You totally can. But in terms of just having your hormones help you out, that's a little bit of a, it's easier. I choose to do things like specific projects, especially around the house, around my cycle. When I do have more energy, when I do have more mental focus. These are like, in the spring, putting away all the kids' winter gear. Ugh, I hate doing this. I do not enjoy, right, doing this. But I got to get, each of them a bin. They put all their boots in there. If the boots are a little small, then we have to figure out, okay, nope, we're not going to put them in. We're going to put them in either the next kid down, or are we going to donate these boots? It's this whole process of like sorting through, organizing, very detailed, not my jam, not my jam. But if I try to do that during the progesterone phase, oh, forget it. I will abandon ship. And these are things where I've realized that I used to beat myself up about,
Yeah.
like, oh, why can't I do this? Like, it's not that hard. Like, I just throw it in a bin and like put it in the garage, like whatever. It is so much more mental energy that it takes me to do a task like that organization wise, because that's just, I'm not a super organized person naturally. Like it takes a lot of mental energy for me to do that type of thing. So I have to like align it differently with my hormones, and it is so much easier. So much easier.
Yeah, that's so cool. I can't wait to try this. Now, what about women who are perimenopausal or menopausal? How does this impact them?
Yeah, great question. So perimenopause. This is a hard phase because officially there is,
Can we
you know,
just say that's the understatement of the year, please? This is a hard phase. To all your women out there going through perimenopause, we see
yeah,
you.
yes, it's so difficult for a
Oh,
lot of different reasons. And one of them is the actual definition of it. The actual definition, it's like, oh, are you having irregular cycles? Maybe you're in perimenopause. Well, we can check your hormone levels. Oh, they're kind of all over the place. Yeah, maybe you're in perimenopause. Oh, it hasn't been a full year since you've had your period. Yeah, you're not quite in menopause yet. Menopause is officially 12 months from having a cycle. That then you get to call it full menopause or whatever. But before that, it's sort of like this, oh, anything goes, we'll just call it perimenopause. And that can be a year or a decade that
oh
you're
my
going.
God.
Yes. Yeah. There are some women that go through that for a decade. And there are more studies coming out now on the onset of menopause. And what they are finding is that women who are under a lot of chronic stress
Hmm.
start perimenopause earlier, and it lasts longer than for them before they fully get into menopause.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it is different. So one of the things that I talk about, because a lot of the stuff I talk about for hormones and hormone regulation actually comes from Chinese medicine, is really supporting your system still with that pattern. Because during perimenopause, things can get thrown off so easily. So that maybe you start missing periods or things like that, as long as like, oh, I skipped a period. Oh, but the next one was on point. Instead of it being, oh yeah, I used to be 30 days. I used to be 30 days on point all the time. Now I'm 30 days, 45 days, 56 days, 28 days, 65 days. Like whew, that's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Versus saying, okay, I had a 30 day, and then it went 60 days because I skipped a month. And then I had 30 days, then it went 90 days. So it's still, so you can still have sort of a same pattern with it if you're supporting your body hormonally by, and this is where I talk about eating for your hormones in your cycle, seed cycling, using some of those nutrition tactics to help regulate your hormones and give your body a pattern to go off of. So, which sounds very weird. Well, I'm going to eat and my hormones are going to listen to this. Your hormones are impressionable, right?
Mm.
Like if you've ever lived with other gals in college, it doesn't take very long for you all to sync up on the same cycle, right? Yeah, because your hormones are impressionable. So you can help create this pattern for your body to go off of.
If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you didn't get into business to be miserable. The problem is that people feel that if their business gets busier, if they start becoming more successful, that happiness will eventually set in. But it can actually get worse. This is why I created the Business of Happiness Prosperity Coaching. In this one-on-one coaching, we look at how to redefine success on your terms and re-find the joy and the passion in your dream. Visit me at thebizofhappiness.com and become the happiest business owner you know. Wow. And, you've just touched on another very important point that I think so many of my listeners can identify with, and that is that many of us are working in teams with other women. In healthcare, we tend to be women heavy, and we tend to have lots of incredible women who are going through their cycles at the same time. And so we all have that estrogen crash at the same time, which is fascinating, giving ourselves some grace as a team as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Like recognizing, oh, there's a big project we all have to start together. when would be a good time for brainstorming
Mm,
versus, implementing things versus following up on detailed things,
absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I know that you offer some of this great insight about the nutrition, is just heading back to your nutrition support for hormones. And I know you offer them on your website. And you have
Mhm,
you have this incredible book
mhm,
as well, Eat for Your Cycle. And you've just alluded to it a little bit, and you talked about the seed cycling, which I've heard you talk about before. But give us a little bit more insight about how what you eat can impact your cycle and how you can support yourself in that process. Because I think often we feel like it's the other way around. Like my cycle's driving me and it's impacting what I eat. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like I get these intense cravings that overtake my common sense that just absolutely steer my steering wheel is steered by my hormones, I swear, and I go to the places I shouldn't go, but I blame it on my hormones. So it's so interesting to think of it in the other way around, that I can actually eat to support my hormones and to guide
Mhm.
my hormones to regulation. So share a little bit more insight there.
Yeah, yes. So this is, yeah, a very different way of thinking about it.
Mm,
And when I talk about eating for your hormones, we're really looking at the overall tone of the food, which is again an Eastern medicine thing to think
as
about.
in the sound, the
Yeah, like
tone,
the
as in
like the like if it's warming or cooling, heating
ooh.
or cooling. Yes. So there are foods like obviously like a pepper warming,
Mm,
right? Got heat and spice to it. Things like ginger, cinnamon, warming, right? Mint, cooling.
mm,
Rosemary, cooling.
mm.
Those spices, things like that. So, and when we're applying anything that's warming or cooling to our cycle, it's really aligning with your basal body temperature.
Hmm.
Your basal body temperature changes throughout the month as well. So during days 1 through 14, during that estrogen phase, your basal body temperature is naturally lower. So we align with that with eating cooling foods, chicken, turkey, fish, raw fruits and vegetables, and then that those seasonings and things I just talked about. The mint, rosemary, thyme, cilantro is another one that's really cooling. And then after ovulation, there's the warming phase. Your basal body temperature should rise and stay higher the entire progesterone phase.
Wow.
And warming foods then are like beef and bacon, um,
Huh.
cooking your fruits and vegetables more, adding physical heat to the food that you're eating, peppers, tomatoes, right? And then ginger, cinnamon, nutmeg is even very warming.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, a lot. So, and it's easy to do because these are foods or things that you do anyway, right? So it's just a matter of like, oh, let me shift these things so I can eat, here versus here, and then you don't have to worry about it being so perfect. Because when we're looking at the overall impression of the food on your body and your hormones, it really is about what you're doing for that day or for the week. So it doesn't have, so for example, it's like, say it's you're on, during the estrogen phase, it's cooling, and you got some girlfriends that invite you out to happy hour at a Mexican restaurant, and you're like, oh my gosh, I totally want to eat chips and salsa. Yes. For this, yes. Oh, that sounds so good. Great. Salsa is warming. Oh, shoot, I can't have that because I'm in my cooling phase. No, you can still have it. Just make sure all the other stuff you're doing that day is cooling and have that one little thing be warming. It's not going to throw it off.
Hmm.
So it's about finding that balance. Um, it doesn't have to be restrictive because I feel like a lot of times with nutrition, what we're taught is very like restrictive, like
Yeah.
only like this,
Hmm.
but it doesn't have to be like that.
So, by doing this, by following this pattern, what are we actually doing with our hormones? So, we're aligning with them. What does that mean?
Yes. So we're allowing estrogen to be created and maintained in our system and allowing that working with the lower body temperature and the higher body temperature at those different times that can help your body create and maintain the correct amount of estrogen or progesterone for your body at that time.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's It's amazing how many things you can notice, like when you start paying attention, when you start aligning your foods and your lifestyle and your exercise and everything around what your hormones are doing. It's like life just gets easier.
Well, it also sounds gentler. It sounds more compassionate. Once again, I
Yeah.
keep coming up with that word because we're not battling our bodies trying to change it or make it go in a different direction, but we're actually going along with the flow and acknowledging those changes, those four different bodies that you talk about, and kind of, I guess, like you said, aligning with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So the best advice then is in those first 2 weeks is when you're really productive and you stick with those cooling foods. So
Hmm.
I'm thinking cucumbers and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Great.
Hmm.
Sounds delicious, by the way. That sounds awesome. And it sounds like I want to eat those things during that time. Like when you're really productive, I want to eat the green smoothies and I want to have the cooling, delicious foods. And you're
Yeah.
right. When I'm getting later into my cycle in the month, that's when I want more of the comfort food, which sounds like a
Yeah.
lot of those
Like,
warming foods.
yeah. I want to say heavier foods even, because your body needs more nourishment at that point leading up to when your cycle would start.
All right, I have another important question before we finish up here with you, and that is how does sugar impact your hormones? Or how
Oh,
does, because that for me, Dr. Beth, is
yeah.
seems to be such the biggest craving I get and the
Hmm.
strongest craving I get right around my period is this intense sugar craving. So, how does that work? Why do I get that sugar craving? And how's that working for, or I'm guessing against me?
Yeah. Oh, this is a really good question. So, most of the time when you are craving something is because your body is deficient in something else.
Mm,
And most of the time when that's leading up to and right when your period starts, it's because your body was nutritionally deficient leading up to. When during weeks 3 and especially week 4, your body actually needs more calories at that point. More protein, more fat, more carbs, all of it.
hmm,
And it doesn't have to be like an intense amount, but at least, like I say, an extra, protein bar a day or an extra
hmm.
like snack or meal or something like that. More food is going to help fuel your system because going through that huge hormonal shift and change, it requires a lot of energy for your body. And when that energy gets used up, when that like glycogen gets used up, your brain runs off of sugar. So in order to keep pace with the rest of the things in your life, your brain is going to say, "Hey, feed me, feed me now." Ugh. Like this isn't just like a craving of, I feel like I would like to have this dessert today or something.
Mm,
It's like
no,
it's almost like you go into a trance and then you wake up in your pantry half eaten a
that's
bag
it.
of chocolate chips or something where you're like,
That's it.
how do
Yeah,
I?
something takes over your
Yes,
body.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
You're not, it's because your brain it's on survival mode.
Gotcha.
It says, I need this, go find it. I know it's there. I locked away the memory when I went grocery shopping that I know this is in there. I'm gonna go find it.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. And it will get the fuel it needs because after you eat half a bag of chocolate chips or whatever, your brain is like, okay, here we go. And it's like, it wakes up again. And then you're like, oh no, shoot.
Yeah.
But a lot, like, that's one of the most common things that I hear when women start eating for their hormones in their cycle and getting enough protein and eating for their, nutrition of like getting enough calorie at the right time. They feel completely different. They're like, I don't have any cravings anymore. Like my cravings around this are just gone. And I'm like, yeah, because your body's getting what it needs. So it's not trying to play catch up.
Yeah, it sounds like a dream. Sounds like a
Yeah.
dream. So, if you can, give us just a brief story of how you came to know all this or study all this or look for all this. What is your story and how you stumbled or you did not stumble. You worked darn hard, so I don't want to belittle that, but trying to find and dig into the research that's out there that's missing and lacking and trying to uncover this. How did this happen for you?
Yeah, that is a great question. So the funny thing about this is that just like people who find their passion and work in the fields they do, it's because they personally went through
Yeah.
something, right? Yes. So for me, when and my I have 3 kids. My youngest is actually 12 today. And so after she was born, I didn't really have any hormone issues before that. I didn't really pay attention. I don't know, right? It wasn't a big deal for me. But we had kids. I was in grad school when we had our first two, and then I graduated, I started my clinic. I had a practice for about 7 years. So I started my clinic and just, dove headfirst into that, had my third, and she was a preemie and was in the NICU for 23 days. So there was a lot of stress, right? I had a brand new business that was not doing well, and I had, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a preemie that was in the hospital, and just so much stress in my life, right?
So much.
Yeah. And I started getting ovarian cysts. Every single month, I would get a cyst that would burst because I got my cycle back right away, within 6 weeks, just like I did my other two kids. And again, things where I was like, oh, I don't really have hormone issues. I get my cycle back right away after I have a baby, blah, 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 whatever. Oh, no, I started getting my cycle back. And then I started getting these cysts that would burst and would put me on the floor. Like, it was incredible how painful it was.
Yeah.
And this happened every single month for 1.5 years. And then finally my husband was like, and I knew what it was, right? I knew I was having ovarian cysts. So I was trying all these things. I was trying all these supplements. I was, eating this pristine diet, no, non-inflammatory, no gluten, no dairy, no sugar, no red meat, all this stuff. And it like sort of helped, but I kept getting cysts. So finally my husband, after I was on the floor from a cyst, he helped me in the car because I couldn't get in the car by myself, brought me to the ER, and the ER doctor was like, yep, it's cysts. And I was like, yes, I know it's a cyst. Oh my God. I want to know why this is happening. I want to know how I get rid of it because I didn't have it before and I had 3 kids and I know I have a lot of stress, but I want to get rid of it. And he was like, well, here's your birth control and here's your Vicodin because that's what's going to take care of it. And I was like, so I don't like the side effects of birth control for me. And plus my husband's had a snip vasectomy. So we're good there. Like I don't need the birth control for the birth control purposes. I don't want that in my body. Are there other options? And plus Vicodin, like all day. Are you kidding? I have
every month. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, get out of here.
Can't run your business, can't drive your kids to school.
No, like I can't live like that. All doped up. Are you kidding me? And then he was like, well, you could just keep getting pregnant.
Stop it, Beth.
And I was livid. I literally because he handed me the prescriptions. I literally took them and ripped them up and I was like, chucked them in the garbage and left there. And my husband's like, well, what are you going to do? Because you didn't take those prescriptions. I was like, I don't know, but I'm going to find something. And I started in a furious rage, at 2 a.m., researching, Googling, looking up all these things about why this was such a problem. And then I started diving into more of the Eastern medicine stuff. So, I was certified in acupuncture and Chinese medicine. So I started doing extra trainings in fertility, hormone issues, menopause, and things like that for women with Chinese medicine. And that's where doing all these things. So for fertility treatments for acupuncture, you do different treatments every week of the month to try and get your body to go through these hormonal cycles. And I was like, that is what I'm missing. I know something is off. I need my body to regulate. So I literally took everything else that I could do because besides going in once a week, I was like, what else can I do literally every single day that supports the hormonal body I'm in?
Wow.
How I eat, how I exercise, all that other stuff. Yeah.
Wow. That's
so
amazing.
It came from a very painful experience and an infuriating ER doctor.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Thank you for going through that and then for persevering to bring this knowledge to so many other women. Thank you, because I know this has not been an easy journey. And I'm so grateful that you are out there with these incredible resources when it seems like it's so hard to find. So thank you for everything that you do from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
So cool. So cool. Where can audience members find you if they're listening to this episode and they're thinking, gosh, I need to get this knowledge. I need to understand my body and eat better for my body. How can they find you?
Yeah. So I'm on the interwebs. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok now.
I
Dr.
love
Beth Westie.
it.
I don't know about the TikTok, but it's happening. So my YouTube is Dr. Beth Westie. I have thousands of hours of videos that go through a ton of information on women's health and hormones. And then my podcast, The Female Health Solution. So,
Awesome. And your book.
And my book, The Female Fat Solution and The Female Menopause Solution. So,
And you have this really cool course coming up really soon.
Yes, I do. That's right. So the Female Hormone Solution program it includes Dutch testing, which is comprehensive testing for your hormones. And I take you through how to eat for your hormones in your cycle and make new, exercise recommendations and everything else. And there's a lot of mindset support and everything else around health and your body and everything to get you to be the healthiest version of you. And that starts in July. Registration actually opens at the end of this month. But normally I do like a 12-week program, but this next one is actually 6 months. So we get 6 months of working together.
So cool. So cool.
Yay.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. I'll definitely put all those links in the show notes. And I'm so excited to check it out myself. I cannot wait to learn more about the 6-month program and also just to get my hands on your book because I think this is so valuable and so important for us to start paying closer attention to. And just the self-compassion aspect of it is understanding that you're a different person. Your body's a different body throughout the month. It's just so forgiving. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yes.
And so my final question to you, Dr. Beth Westie, is what is your definition of happiness?
I think my definition of happiness is when you can, like, every single day pursue your life goals and feel fulfilled and content. Yeah.
It's beautiful, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
So fun. And happy birthday to your beautiful, beautiful daughter. And so much love to you. And thank you to all of you for joining us here today. And please definitely check out Dr. Beth's book. It's absolutely amazing. And her website is amazing. And all of her YouTube videos have great content, all available for you anytime. Thank you, Dr. Beth.